The digital revolution is gaining momentum. Are we on track to make it inclusive? Women now account for 1 in 3 scientific researchers. They have achieved parity in life sciences in many countries. But women remain a minority in engineering, computing, physics, and mathematics. These are the very fields that are driving the digital revolution and many of the jobs of tomorrow. These are also the fields where there's a skills shortage. It's not enough to attract talent. Employers must also be able to retain talent. Multinational corporations in the digital economy are dominated by men. Women are underrepresented in company leadership and technical roles. If women feel undervalued, they may choose to resign. But corporate attitudes are changing. Studies have shown that having a diverse workforce can boost investor confidence and improve profit margins. Yet nearly half of tech startups in Canada, China, the United Kingdom, and the USA have no women in executive positions. Women struggle to access finance. Just 2% of venture capital is being channeled towards startups founded by women. At university, women have attained parity at the graduate level and account for 44% of PhDs. But the gender gap widens as they progress in their academic career. Women make up just 12% of members of national science academies. Women earn lower salaries. They receive less grant funding for research than men and publish less in high-impact journals. A study of nearly 3 million papers published over half a century found that women would not achieve parity for output in computer science until the year 2100. We need to transform gender relations by eliminating gender stereotypes in education and in the workplace. We need to ensure that men and women enjoy equal opportunity and equal pay. For the digital revolution to be smart, it must be inclusive.
Digital rights and inclusion are critical components of modern society, impacting how individuals interact with technology and each other. Ensuring that everyone has the opportunity to participate in the digital world requires concerted efforts from governments, organizations, and communities. Digital rights refer to the human rights and legal rights that allows individuals to access, use, create, and publish digital media, or to access and use computers, other electronic devices, and telecommunications networks. These rights encompass issues such as privacy, freedom of expression, and access to information. Digital inclusion involves ensuring that all individuals and communities, including the most disadvantaged, have access to and the skills to use information and communication technologies. This encompasses efforts to reduce digital divide, promote digital literacy, and ensure equitable access to technology. The 11th edition of the Digital Rights and Inclusion Forum, DRIFT 24, was held in Accra, Ghana.
A very good morning to all of you. It's good to see you, and it's heartwarming to see the amount of interest that there is in DRIFT 24.
Ladies and gentlemen, in today's interconnected world, digital rights and inclusion are not merely abstract concepts, but essential pillars of our democratic societies and development.
The event, organized by Paradigm Initiative, PIN, is a key platform for discussing digital policy in Africa, debating policy directions, and forging partnerships for action. The theme for this year's forum was Fostering Rights and Inclusion in the Digital Age. Hundreds of delegates from 56 countries across the world attended the forum. DRIFT 24 covered a range of sub-themes, including trust and accountability, data protection, privacy and surveillance, artificial intelligence and emerging technologies, and digital inclusion for marginalized groups. The forum featured about 80 sessions, including panel discussions, tech demos, lighting talks, and exhibitions. The event brought together a diverse group of stakeholders from across the global south, including representatives from civil society, technology companies, governments, and academia. Last year's forum in Nairobi, Kenya, attracted 601 participants from 54 countries and focused on issues like internet shutdowns, data protection, and content moderation. Sub-themes at the forum focused on trust and accountability, data protection, privacy and surveillance, artificial intelligence and emerging technologies, digital inclusion, and marginalized groups. The forum kicked off with inspiring keynote speeches, setting the tone for the 3-day of dynamic discussions and collaborative sessions. Participants also engaged in interactive workshops and witnessed cutting-edge tech demos, exploring innovative solutions and practical applications. GIF24 was not just about formal sessions, it was also about building connections. Networking events and informal gatherings provide a platform for delegates to share experiences and ideas beyond their conference rooms. Lightning talks offered quick insights into specific topics, while exhibitions showcased the latest advancements in digital rights and inclusion technologies. Delegates from the global south share their unique experiences, highlighting strategies that transcend geographical boundaries and foster global cooperation. As the GIF24 concluded, the delegates left with renewed energy and a collective resolve to foster a digital age that is inclusive, equitable, and respectful of all rights.
Welcome to Tech on Tech. We are coming to you from Accra, Ghana, where we have been attending the Digital Rights and Inclusion Forum 2024. To speak to us about the Digital Rights Forum is the Executive Director of Paradigm Initiative, the organization that brings together different stakeholders to this Digital Rights and Inclusion Forum 2024. Welcome to the program, Benga.
Thank you for having me, Grace.
Now, tell us more. What is DRIF?
It's the Digital Rights and Inclusion Forum. Like I said at the opening, we started in 2013. It was then called Internet Freedom Forum because we saw a gap. We saw that many of us were complaining about the issues around internet freedom, but we didn't have a space to come together to talk about it, apart from when we traveled for, conferences in other places in the world. And so we started as a small thing in 2013. But in 2018, we changed strategy to make it Digital Rights and Inclusion Forum. So it's not just focused on digital rights anymore, but also about inclusion. So it's the platform where we get Africans who are working on digital rights and digital inclusion to come together, exchange notes, talk about strategy, talk about partnerships, and of course, it's open. So we have people we've got 48 countries from Africa this year, but 61 in total. So we have some other people who are not from the continent, some from the global south, but others also from outside the continent and outside the global south.
Very good. Now tell me, what has been the theme for 2024 and why the choice for this theme? And what does the theme mean for Africa?
Yes. The theme is focused on fostering digital rights and inclusion. And the reason we've deliberately mentioned fostering is because we talk about it all the time, but we need to make it grow. We complain all the time, but we need to make it grow. There are things that have been working, and yes, in our annual report this year we launched, and there are 26 countries featured. We also identified areas that have good examples, where things are working, where there are examples that other countries can copy. And we're glad to see that. And also to talk about how do we nurture, how do we grow, how do we foster this entire, concept of digital rights, of, human dignity, in the digital age on the continent. And that's why we decided to have that theme for this year, to say we will not stop at complaining, we will not stop at discussing, we will discuss practical strategies of how to grow and how to bring this together and make it work.
All right. Now, just speaking from there, what would you say are the challenges? Besides, I know we've made gains, but
Yes.
what are the challenges besides the gains being made to ensure inclusion of citizens?
So one of the big challenges that we're now beginning to focus on a lot at Paradigm Initiative is exclusion for people who are already included. We talk about people who are online, people who are offline. So we talk about the connected and the unconnected. But we don't often talk about the disconnected. People who are counted as part of those who are connected but have been disconnected because of internet shutdowns or deliberate government policies that shut them out of the conversation. And so one of the key things for us this year is to make sure that we go all out of our way to look for organizations that are working in inclusion. And when we talk about inclusion, obviously it's not just about tech inclusion, it's also about inclusion of diverse voices. Diverse voices in the global south, diverse voices in terms of the themes that we discuss. But definitely we want to make sure that when we say inclusion, we do not forget that inclusion means that we will have different voices in the room. It means we may not agree on everything. It means we may not agree on the same approach, but we will have open conversations and we will confront the issues. And where we agree, we start from there and move on to areas that we may have disagreements and have to discuss a bit more.
Great. Now, in concluding Drift 2024,
Yes.
there have been recommendations that have been
Yes.
made.
Yes.
What should governments do in line with what Drift 2024 discussions and recommendations have proposed?
I'll say that they should listen to what the government of Ghana said during the opening ceremony. We had the Director General of the Cybersecurity Agency in Ghana saying that African governments need to focus on inclusion. Inclusion is absolutely important. And not just inclusion like we pretended during COVID. Oh my God, nobody's connected. Let's start doing it. And then when COVID lockdowns ended, we just moved on. Inclusion has to be specific. What percentage of your citizens are connected right now? What percentage will be connected in the next few years? And it should not just be something that a minister will release as a strategy. It has to have political backing. We have examples on this continent where presidents have said, listen, it is my job to make sure everyone is connected, and because of that, that is prioritized. The second thing is that governments need to stay out of the way. Where they are not helping, they should stay out of the way. Where governments can't exactly help in terms of policy, for example, if young people are making, waves and designing using AI platforms and AI tools, if you don't understand it as government, please don't start by regulating it. Which is where we have a challenge. Governments think a lot about regulation and control, but we say to them, step aside, understand before you start thinking of regulation, and it can't be controlled, it must be standards. Before you can create standards, you must first understand what the new concept is.
Now, Benga, you are a global leader, and you even sit in the UN, the UN panel on internet governance. What would you project as the future for sustainable internet?
I think the future is like the fingers of my hand. It's be all and open. All and open means that people will not be on one platform and think they're on the internet. And we've had that problem before, where because one company that means well connects people to the internet, people just use their own service alone and they think, oh my God, this is the entire internet. No, it must be trustworthy. It means that those who come online must be able to trust and say that, oh wow, I looked for this information, because when you search for information right now, unfortunately, you don't even know what to believe at times. Somebody will say, oh, 10 people were injured. Another one will say 3 people were injured. Who do you believe? We need people who are working, the media, the government and other stakeholders, to make sure that we create an environment that is trusted. The other is in terms of data flows. And I know this speaks a bit more to government. Data protection and data privacy is not something that we can joke with anymore on the continent. Now the Malabo Convention is in force. We don't have any excuse anymore. So data online cannot be about data abuse. It cannot be about data breaches. Data breaches must be punished by independent data protection commissions. Of course, it must also be rights respected. There's no point talking about the internet if rights are not respected. Online gender-based violence, deliberate attacks on women, we need to clamp down. And by clamping down, I mean we need to call out the bad actors. If any platform already has a standard that says that we will make sure that any such thing is flagged and taken down, then we need to find ways of making them take it down. If, for example, someone reports and flags on a platform and says that this is something on child pornography, there has to be a way of making sure that that is done. And this is where transparency reports by platforms come in. It needs to become more transparent. Many of them do just enough. They call it transparency report, but it's not transparent. Who asked you questions? Who gave you the request? How many did you respond to? Why did you respond to it? We want to see more transparency around platforms and generally around internet services.
Now, what next for Drift 2025?
Well, like we've announced, Drift 2025 is April 29 to May 1, 2025 in Lusaka, Zambia. We go to Southern Africa, and we know that it will be a bigger event because every year there's more interest, there's increase. But beyond just being a bigger event, the challenge that we're throwing to delegates and everyone who was at Drift 24 is the announcements you made on panels, the presentations you made about work. Please come to 2025 Drift to showcase results. Let's not talk all the time. We've launched, tools on digital security. We've launched a report on Londa. We released a short film. We will come back as an institution to say this is what we have done with it. We challenge every civil society organization to also do the same. Come to Drift 2025, but not just to participate alone, but to share an update on what you have done, so that every year we come and say this is what we've done based on what we said last year, and this is what we'll do next year. And we can benchmark and see how we're doing well, how we're not doing well, because together we can definitely tackle many of the problems we have and talk about even the good things that have been done.
Okay, your last remarks, and face the camera and speak to Kenyans.
Jambo, brothers and sisters in Kenya. Obviously, not just because Paradigm Initiative has an office in Kenya, even before we did, I've always had Kenya with a special place in my heart. You are a good example for Africa in some areas. When your president announced the opening of borders to everyone, we applauded. We know it's just one step away from opening it up completely, and we trust that that will continue. But also, you showed us what to do with data protection. You announced and instituted an independent data protection office. The rest of the continent is learning from you. There are other areas where Kenya needs to learn and do better, and we trust you will do that. So Kenya, thank you for hosting us in 2023. We may not come back again too soon, but we thank you for all the support you give to civil society organizations, including Paradigm Initiative in Kenya, including, of course, our partners, Kick Talent. And we look forward to doing a lot more so that every Kenyan is not just connected to digital rights and digital resources, but they also maximize digital opportunities.
That's it from Tech on Tech, where we were interviewing Benga Session. He's the Executive Director of Paradigm Initiative, the organizers of the Digital Rights and Inclusion Forum that happens once every year. And until next time, please continue following us on our social media handles, and that's at KBC Channel 1. My name is Grace Gidaiga. Goodbye from Accra, Ghana.